Hello everyone, welcome to the video. Today I'll be talking about Chevening Scholarships Application Guideline for the period 2022-2023. My name is Mohammad Jawed Salemi. I am a Chevening alumnus 2019, Imperial College London. If you have any questions during this video conference or later on, you can always drop them down in the comment section, or you can email them through to me through the email provided here. Okay, so today we will be talking about the application procedure in general. Um, then we will talk about finding a course a little bit, as well as about interviews. So first, let's talk about who is eligible for a Chevening scholarship. Um, you should be pursuing a one-year master's degree in the UK. That's the first requirement, and this master degrees usually are thought-based degrees. To assess your own eligibility and work requirements, please visit chevening.org scholarship and the section who can apply, and then go to eligibility. So to be eligible, you should be a citizen of a Chevening eligible country and territory. This is a list that you can again find on chevening.org website. Um, and of course, you should pledge a commitment that you will be returning to your home country after completion of the degree and work there for at least 2 years. Now, this might be a little bit different for some countries now, um, where the situation is really bad, like Afghanistan, for example. There, or if you're holding a refugee status in another country, this might become a little bit tricky, but it doesn't mean that you should not be required to sign that pledge. You should still mention, at least in your essays or in your application, that your long term is to serve in Afghanistan, for example, um, and in your country. So this would be something um, to bear in mind, even as a refugee in a different country. The scholarship is giving to your home country. So you should always have that kind of uh, approach when you're writing your essays and things like that. Your undergraduate degree should be completed. Um, well, now here is one thing, that this eligibility is only for tuning. This is not for universities. Different universities will have different requirements. Um, so just to bear that in mind. You should have 2 years, equivalent to 2,800 hours of work experience. And you should apply to 3 different eligible UK universities courses that and receive an unconditional offer by July 13, 2023. Um, Now, the eligible UK university courses can be found on the Chevening website as well. Who is ineligible? So someone who holds a British or British citizenship is ineligible. Holds a refugee status in a non-Chevening eligible country. So that means if you hold a refugee status in a Chevening eligible country, you should be able to apply. You can find the list of Chevening eligible countries on Chevening website. If you are an employee or have been a former employee or your relative of a former employee or a current employee. So that is if you have been employed in the last 2 years prior to the application, that makes you ineligible. And if your relative is being employee of the UK government, um, again, that's only UK government, uh, and that would make you ineligible. And also, if the same goes for Chevening partner organizations. So if you're an employee, former employee, or a relative of relative who work with the Chevening partner organization, you can find the list of Chevening partner organizations on Chevening website. These are usually universities who is Chevening partnering with, but it can be other organizations as well. If you have previously studied in the UK with funding from um, a UK government funded scholarship. So if it's anything else like the university funded or an organization, you should be able to apply. But if it's a UK government funded scholarship, then that makes you ineligible. For work experience, the type of work experience eligible for tuning include full-time employment, part-time employment, volunteer work, paid or unpaid internships. So I believe that covers everything, every kind of work that you would do will fall into these four categories. Um, and work experience can be completed before, during, or after your graduation of your previous degree. So let's say you had your undergrad and you were working part-time, or before that you were working volunteer somewhere, that all goes towards your work experience calculation. You can mention up to 15 different employments, um, and these 15 different employments doesn't have to be in a chronological order. So you can mention the employments that would make the most contribution towards those 2,800 hours, but it should not be in it doesn't have to be in a chronological order. For work experience calculation, per week, 35 to 60 hours. If it's a part-time, I believe it can be less than that. It can be 20 hours, 10 hours. If it's volunteer work, it can be as well, less than that. But for a full-time employment, it should be in those ranges. And then per year, you can have like 40 to 50 weeks um, per year. So let's say you worked 40 hours per week, and you worked 50 weeks. That would be 2,000 hours. And you will have only 800 hours left to look for, or just list it in there. Let's say you worked another year part time, 20 hours per week, and that was a 40 uh, weeks in a year for you. That would be 800 hours. So in total, 1 year part time, 1 year full time, 2,800 um, hours, and are good to go. But if you list additional hours, like let's say your total work experience come to like 6,000 hours, mention it there. It doesn't hurt. I A tip from me would be like make sure it matches what you have on your CV. Just be genuine and be as much detailed as you want to, because that will give them a good a good um, overview of you know who they're uh, gonna give all this money to study. Um, but anyways, the whole point of this is, um, if you are worried about, oh, do I meet that requirement, make sure you grab that calculator, a piece of paper. um, just consider all your volunteer work, your paid or unpaid internships that you have done, and calculate that way. But one thing to consider, um, if you are doing a co-op or an internship that's counted towards your undergrad degree, that should not be mentioned as part of your work experience. For application timeline, the applications opened on August 2nd this year, 2022. The applications will be closing on November 1st, 2022, but for Afghanistan, the deadline just got extended to November 15th. Thanks to all the alumni who worked for this, and thanks to Chevening for understanding. This is also because they opened the applications for Afghans very recently, just 1 week ago, um, and this was a exceptional consideration to extend the deadline. For eligibility criteria, the applications will be sifted towards the initial eligibility criteria. For example, if you is your application meeting the criteria, that will most likely be done by the system. One day after you apply, so the system will decide if you have made it to the next step or not. Um, if you look at the general tips and advice on Chevening website, which we will be talking about later on, you should be able to pass this pretty easily, unless you put in some answers that make you ineligible. The reading committee assessment will be done mid-November to December 2022. Application shortlisted for interview would be done early to mid-February. For references and education documents, deadline is between February to late April. That's kind of happening concurrently with when the interviews would be happening. So if, let's say, you have been shortlisted for interview and you still haven't uploaded your references or your education documents, I would highly encourage you submit all those documents on your or upload them on your um, online portal as soon as you hear about your interview, and also have the original copies of those with you during your interview when you're going for an interview. February 27th to April 28th, the interviews take place. The results of your application comes around June time, so it would depend on different countries, but around June those should come out. On conditional offer from universities, you should submit at least one unconditional offer by 13th of July 2023. But don't, if you receive anything, any conditional offer, any unconditional offer, upload it to the online portal as soon as possible. And then studies begin in the UK September to October. It depends. Some universities late September, mid September, or early October. That's mainly the timeline. Okay. Uh, we will be talking about some common errors that you um, can make when applying on the online application system. So most of the application can make very simple errors that make them ineligible through the online system. So applicants must correctly answer all parts of the eligibility pre-screen. The pre-screen is very important. Um, you should answer those, like you can't make a mistake there. Of course, we will be talking. We will be like in another video. I will go through a step-by-step application, like pre-screen and application form. So this will be a little bit more clearer. Application form. Applicants must correctly complete all parts of the application form to be considered eligible. So if you have anything that's left there and that's a required field, and for whatever reason the system just let you submit the application, you will be ineligible if you haven't submitted those. Or let's say you forgot to paste in your essays and stuff like that, or if you do like a limit violation, those will all make you ineligible. And those are very common errors as well. Personal details, um, that's another thing. If you just make sure you have your email on file is correct. If you just make a simple typo there, you would never hear from them because that's an email that's not, anyone's email, and they will be just sending emails to the wrong email address. Work experience, that is again another um, field that people can have trouble with, but as I mentioned, it's very simple. Like you can include up to 15 different work experiences. Like just break it down to whatever work you have done, like as you do it in your CV, for how many weeks or how many months, and in each week how many hours did you work. Just multiply that and write the hours right there. But some common errors applicant made in the past were not meeting the minimum number of hours worked prior to submitting their application, or not entering the correct total number of weeks worked for each year of employment, entering an unrealistic number of hours or weeks worked, for example, like 2,000 hours rather than 20 hours per week. Um, and entering the same work experience entry more than once, for example. Those are some of the common errors people make. UK university. So applicants who enter duplicate courses at the same universities cannot be considered for a scholarship. And this is something you can make that mistake. You can enter the same course and the system will let you do that, but that will make you ineligible. Be very mindful there. Declaration, this section of the application form requires the applicant to correctly answer a number of statements to be considered eligible. So if the applicant is not able to confirm um, that these statements apply to them, they will be deemed ineligible. Application questions word count. For example, the ACEs that you get, if you go past the limit 500 words, I haven't really seen that the system will let you do that, but let's say if it does that, you will be ineligible straight from the system. So you will applications would not even be passed to the reading committee. Or if it's less than the minimum word count, like which is around 150 words, I think, you, again, you would be ineligible. Repetition: applicants should not repeat answers to any of the essay questions. So, like, by any chance, if you copy and pasting from Word where you write your essays, if you copy and paste and like you paste one questions into two different fields, like one answer to two different fields, um, that would make you ineligible um, directly from the system. So make sure if you have written your essays in Word, make sure to double check that everything goes in the right place. Plagiarism is another thing. If you have copied from anywhere on the internet, or I believe even previous year applicants, they will be able to detect that, and um, that will make you ineligible. And use of English language in all of the application, all of the answers should be in English. There is no exception. So please, only English language on the application. So courses that are eligible. Let's talk about courses and what courses are eligible. They must be full time. That's the first requirement. It's no part time, nothing like that. Full time courses. Every course that you visit on the website, it will be mentioned there if it's full time or part time. It should start in the autumn term. So that's basically September or October, as I mentioned previously. It should be a taught master's. It should not be a research, a master's in it. It should be like let's say taught masters like MSc, MA, all of these different courses. But if it has the extension of Master of Research in Biology, that MRS extension, that is not eligible. Those courses are not eligible, and those are usually 2 years long courses. The taught masters are 1 year, and it should lead to a master's degree qualification. So it cannot be a diploma or something like that. It should be a master's degree course. Should be based in the UK, um, and courses that are ineligible part-time. So again, it should be a full-time course. It should not be a part-time course. If it's distance learning, so the whole idea of Chevening scholarship again is cultural exchange and um, being there and experiencing it all, not distance learning. Uh, if it's less than 9 months in period, again, taught master in the UK is 1 year in duration, so it should not be it. That 1 year can be like 11 months, depending on different universities. You can finish your thesis earlier and depart home and come back for a presentation or something. But it should not be less than 9 months, or it cannot be more than 12 months in duration. It cannot be a PhD or you know diploma. Again, it should only be a master's course, taught masters. The course should not be taught with more than 1 month of study outside of the UK. Okay, so the important part is the online application system. This is something that I believe most of you are doing right now. Um, it is easier than most scholarships that I've seen, but again, um, it has its pros and cons. So you should be very careful. If you make a small mistake, the system can make you ineligible. So be very precise with your answers. The word limits, the different answers to different questions, um, those are important. And this application, of course, is used throughout the application, starting from when you start your application, your answers, to your interview times and submitting your offers from universities until the day you're being granted a Chevening scholarship. So this is the online application is very important to like remember the password, your username, and everything. Um, so there, here are some tips on what to do and what not to do. Usually use Google Chrome whenever possible. You can use other browsers, but Google Chrome gives the best experience. And also use a laptop or PC. Please don't apply from your phone or your tablet, anything like that. Phone, the website or the online application system is not designed for a phone. It might not display everything that's there. So always use a laptop or PC, and for best experience, use Google Chrome. Um, Work in full window, so don't just resize the window or anything like that, because that might cover some of the content that's on the website. Um, Always work in full window. And do not use browser back and forward buttons, because any unsaved work will be lost. Instead, use the menus of the form instead, like next or back, that are on the online application system. That will actually save your work as you go. And always remember your username and password. With all this technology, you can actually remember, like use the remember your email and password, which is again um, a good tool. But if you have, let's say, lost access to your computer or something happened to your computer, um, make sure you have access to that email. If, let's say, you use the remember your email and password, and then later on you don't remember what was that off of your head, so you might want to recover your password. But if you don't have access to that email, then you're locked out of your online application system. So just always remember that password and always have access to that email that you used with your application system. I would recommend always use the primary email address that you're using for the application system, and then for the recovery or the backup, you can use an additional email address that you have. Um, you should enter information correctly, um, specifically your contact details. Let's say you have like a typo in your email address, you will never receive the emails that you were supposed to receive, and you might miss important deadlines because of that. Um, yeah, and if anything changes in the process, just update it. Um, but once you submit your application, you cannot update that anymore. The only fields that you will be able to update is your contact details. And the second email address that you are providing should also be accurate. Um, so for longer answers, again, as we mentioned, such as essays, I would recommend use an offline text editor like Microsoft Word, and then you can copy and paste uh, to the application form. The reason of this will be clear in a minute, um, but yeah, again, the word counts for question is between 100 and 500, so that is the essays. Um, I think I mentioned 150 earlier, but that's, as we can see, it's 100. Anything below 100 would be disregarded. It will make you ineligible, and anything above 500 would also make you ineligible. And this is very important step. Save as you go. So let's say you worked for 40 minutes, 45 minutes on the application, and you just didn't save the application. After 60 minutes, the system will log you out regardless if you have been actively editing the form or not. So you're on the application and it kicks you out after 60 minutes. All that you have done will be lost if you don't save the progress. So to avoid losing time and progress, save regularly, and I strongly encourage that. And you do not have to complete the application in one session. That's probably a very bad idea. So we use logout whenever you're just tired with it, and that logout will um, save the progress, and it will also send you a link to your email, um, that you have logged out. Do not plagiarize. Again, plagiarism, as we mentioned earlier, um, the system will detect it, and the application will not be passed to reading committee if plagiarism is detected. So making sure that your answers are original and not copied from any other sources is a very important thing to bear in mind. Um, Application submission should be in English only. We already mentioned this. Um, for any documents, for any attachment that you're uploading to the system, should be only in formats as a JPG if it's a picture, or a PNG, and if it's a document, it should only be PDF. You cannot submit like Word or different kind of other formats. So make sure you change everything to PDF if it's a document. If it's a picture, JPG or PNG are also detected by the system. The size of a single document should not be more than 5 megabytes. So that's another requirement. If you have scanned your like different documents, and you need to upload them, I would recommend breaking them down to separate documents. Um, and I think the system would also not ask for any additional documents that is not required. So if your transcript, let's say you scanned a very high image resolution and it's like 10 megabytes, you probably should save that as an optimized for web use. Um, or there are also online um, websites that can decrease your PDF size for you. So you can do that for your files if it's more than 5 megabytes. If it's less than that, you should be fine. And file names also should not be more than 50. Let me just make sure that's 50 characters. Yeah, 50 characters. So it's like when writing the, don't write transcript, let's say Muhammad Jawed Salimi, Kabul University, 2015, something like that. Just simply put the name, transcript, diploma, reference one, reference two, things like that. Very like shorter names. 50 characters are still long enough, but I would just go with simpler names. Um, so submit your application once you are satisfied with it. If, let's say, you completed your application, just don't submit it today without looking at it first. Come back tomorrow when you're fresh and you've had a good night's sleep. Look at it again, go through the tabs, make sure everything is in the right place, make sure everything looks fine to you, there is no typo or anything like that. Then submit it, because once you submit it, you cannot modify your application except the contact details, because that can always change. And the uploading document sections, those are the only two sections that you can modify. Except those, you cannot modify the application at all. So be careful there. And you can only submit one application, and only the first application submitted is considered. Let's say you made a mistake in your application and you opened another application. They will, the system will detect that, and you will the first application will be considered. And if you withdraw from that first application, they will ask for a reason, and you cannot open another application under that, pass email or username until the next year opening. So this is very important to make sure that everything on your application is right and correct before you submit. And for any technical support that you might need, just refer to this, visit the website, chevening.org. Um, I will provide some of the links that I have provided here on the presentation slides in the description so that you can access them there as well. Okay, let's talk about references and referees. Um, Again, references are an integral part of the tuning's selection process. At least two referees' names should be provided when submitting the application. Um, and if your application progresses to the next step, you will be required to upload those reference letters from your referees. So your referees would not be required to upload those. Well, this might be slightly different with the university applications, because some universities might have an online form that they will send to your referees, and then they will be uploading their letters there, but that's a different story. Here, what you do is provide all the details of your referees, but you should ask for letters that are signed. So you should go, like, get a hard copy of that from them. If due to some circumstances you are not in touch anymore, they can always just send you the soft copy. I believe Tuning will um, understand that situation. Um, and they will, yeah, again, as I mentioned, Tuning will not contact your referees at this stage to complete or upload references. So it is your sole responsibility that you get your references from your referees in the window that you're given. At a later stage, the British Embassy or High Commission may contact your referees for verification purposes, but during the application period, they will not do that for you. You have to get the letters and upload it to the system. And if you, again, if you have your original hard copies, keep them with you, and on the interview date, have them with you just in case they ask for that. And you should select your referees very carefully. They should be people who can comment on your suitability for the scholarship. should be known to you either in an academic or professional capacity, and they should not be relative or close for personal friends to you. Um, References are reviewed at a later stage by the British Embassy or High Commission in your country. Um, and it is important to provide as much information as possible um, to support the application of the applicant. So this slide would be more for referees, and you can find this same information on chevening.org, and there is a part about references. You can take a screenshot of um, what are the requirements of the reference, what they should mention, and you can send that to your referees when you're getting the reference letters from them. Um, so again, I will mention some of those details here. The letter should be addressed to the British Embassy High Commission in the applicant's country or territory. If the British Embassy or High Commission in your country has been suspended, which is the case for Afghanistan, address your reference letter to Chevening officer and the name of the country. So in Afghanistan, for example, this would be Chevening officer Afghanistan. So it should be addressed to that. And once it is completed, return it to the applicant who can upload it to the online application system references portal. Um, the references should cover the following for referees, of course. So your contact details, that should be your address, email address, and phone number. For how long have you known the applicant? In what capacity you know the applicant? The different capacities would be professional, educational, supervisory, voluntary, or religious. Um, and when did you have last a regular contact with the applicant? Let's say you had 1 year ago you worked with applicant, or a brief and then a brief endorsement of the applicant. This should include skills in leadership and networking, um, personal, intellectual, and interpersonal qualities, ability to complete a demanding academic program in the UK. Okay, that was for references. And now to find a course, you can go to chevening.org scholarships, find a course. So this is a website where you can type the name of the course and the university. I think it's managed by postgrad.com, but let me make sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, it is. It's the supplied by Postgrad Solutions. Um, but if you don't see the course that you're looking for on the course finder, you can always contact Chevening, and if you can fill in a missing course form, if it's an eligible course, they will add it to the system. If not, they will let you know. But a good starting point would be not knowing anything about the courses. You just know that you want to get a master's in energy policy, let us say. It's always good to do your research by yourself first. Make your selections, like what are your top 10 choices. And then once you have done your top 10 choices in different universities, come back and search those courses in the course finder. If they are there, it means those courses are eligible. Um, if they are not there and you believe those are eligible courses in countries, in universities that are partnering with Chevening, then you can contact Chevening about those. So again, do your research, find your courses on the university's website, Make sure it's a course you want. Don't just go by the name, and just thinking, okay, this is the right course. Go find that course on the university website, do your research, and then select that course. Um, and again, as I mentioned, selecting the right course at the right universities is one of the most important aspects of your application, because if for whatever reason you select the wrong course, you will be stuck with that decision for the next 1 year. So make sure it's something you want to do for the next 1 year. You want to enjoy your tuning experience, and for that, selecting the right course is a very important step. Um, Use the link that's provided to find the courses of your choice, and the course should be eligible. Um, Again, applying to the courses should be done through the relevant university website. By no means selecting the course and writing down the name on the course section in the application form, in tuning application form, means that you have applied to those courses. That is a totally different process that you would have to complete through the university website. I'm probably you're all aware of this already, but I'm just mentioning this for someone who is just like interested in tuning and want to apply, and they're not familiar with the process. And let's not be judgmental. There will be people who would be trying this for the first time, and they haven't received any guidance or anything how the application process goes for getting a scholarship and then getting an offer. Those are two different procedures, and you have to do those separately. But making sure that selecting the course here and then applying to that course, not to another course, is also very important. um, this is a personal recommendation, but it you can, like, make your own choice. But this is what worked for me. I do not say that it will work for anyone else, but I mean, this would give you a chance of acceptance to, like, more than 100%. But again, this would highly depend on the quality of your application as well. If you put in the work, you should be fine. But my advice here is the first course should be in a university that's a little bit high ranked, and the course that you're going to be taking there is uh, of high quality, and then you should look at the acceptance rate of that university or of that course. um, I would say it should be competitive enough to stimulate your mind and do something creative. Mine was the first one, Imperial, their acceptance rate 15%, and then the second course I applied was in Glasgow University, 50%, and then the last one was more for me. I know that I would get an admission there. So yeah, the last one I would recommend leaving that as backup option, that you are almost like 100% certain that you will be getting admission from there. But you never know, sometimes you might get surprised that you get a rejection from a course that you were thinking that you are gonna be getting there regardless. But don't do it in a way that you would select your first course in a place that you would certainly get an admission, and then for the rest of them you don't. I mean, it doesn't matter. In the end of the day, it's in your own hands. Chevening would only ask you for which course you want to go for, like first choice, second, or third. But in order to have your chances high, I would not go with like all the top universities in the UK, and then by the end of the day, you only have 15% chance to get into those, or like less than that. So that's something I wanted to tell you guys about. Um, okay, so next, we'll talk about interviews in a later stage in more details, but here there are just a couple of basic information that if you're shortlisted for an interview, let's say you will be invited to attend an interview in your home country, in the city or town where the British Embassy or High Commission has a representation. Well, so now with for example, I'm giving again the situation of Afghanistan as an example. Um, you will not be invited to Afghanistan, obviously, because there is no embassy there anymore. So you would be invited to from wherever you applied or the closest embassy or high commission to there. Um, and this, like, being becoming shortlisted for an interview is a huge achievement for you because you have been selected among the few hundreds from a pool of like 10,000 of people. Um, it means you're one of the strongest candidates, so you should believe in yourself and you should be ready for it. And also consider the interview as a great opportunity to actually showcase your skills and to really demonstrate and show them why you should be selected among others to get the scholarship. And make sure you're available for an in-person interview during the global interview period. You're not out of your home country, or you're not somewhere traveling and then in the midst of all that you miss your interview. um, Before your interview you will be asked to upload the following documents to the online application system. Education documents such as copies of your original transcripts and diplomas if you haven't done so already. So usually if I had them ready, I would just upload them as soon as possible. Two reference letters, this is the time that you will be asked to upload those as well. A short biography of yourself to tell the panelists more about you. I don't exactly remember what was the word limit on this, but I feel it was less than around 300 something, but they will tell you about that. Um, and you will also need the following documents for your interview. So a passport or national ID to bring with you, an original one. Additional documents may be requested in some countries or territories, but you will be informed about that in the email inviting you to the interview. Um, and yeah, you will receive instruction on how to book your interview in an email. Interview slots are available on a first come first serve basis, so it's always good to book your slot as soon as possible. And once your interview is scheduled, a confirmation will be received to your email and it cannot be changed. Applicants are interviewed by the embassy or high commission from the country territory of award. Now, if you are a refugee, that your interview will be either online or it will be um, done by the embassy or high commission where you hold a refugee status at. Um, and again, as I mentioned, where necessary and practical, interviews can take place online. Interviews in 2021 took place online due to COVID-19 restrictions. So if there is an exceptional situation, they might be able to do the online interviews. The interviews will be competency based panel assessment conducted in English. Yeah, the panel will include representative from the British Embassy or High Commission who will use the global Chevening criteria to assess your answers. So all of the answers or the questions will be from your application um, form. They are not actually would just ask you something out of the blue. Most of the questions there will be from your application. They might ask you questions like, tell me about yourself, or tell me about a time you demonstrated a leadership skill. But those kind of questions have already been asked you in your application. So for them, um, would be to make sure that what you have written there is what you actually have done. I would suggest giving that same example in your application, but with a little bit more details that due to word limitations and everything you left out. But now would be a good chance for you to elaborate more on that and give additional information. And also you can always provide additional examples as well in that area. It's for an essay that I will be talking in a sorry, yeah, for an essay to be um, concise, it's not a good idea to jump from example to example, which I will be talking about in another video, like how to write the essays for Chevening. But as a general idea, it's not a good practice to just throw a bunch of examples in there. It's always good to be concise and not jump from one place to another. But in during interview, what I again mentioned, if they ask you about your sometime you demonstrated leadership skills, you can give in the example that you mentioned in your essay with a little bit of extra details, but then you can also give them additional examples. Um, Here you would be speaking and uh, you will, have your nervousness, but in general, you can talk more and you can give them more examples. Anyways, those are two areas that I will be talking about in a separate video. As I mentioned, like probably two separate videos, one for essays and one for the interview itself. And there will be questions again, as I mentioned, questions to explain personal and professional aspirations on, and also how Chevening can facilitate you in achieving these goals. So you should be ready. You should practice actually why Chevening is a good, like why you are a good fit for Chevening and why Chevening should invest that money on you. Your course choices will be discussed and you will be asked to provide an update on your applications. It's not necessary that they will ask you this question, but if they do, um, this might be your last chance to change your courses at this stage, but it's not guaranteed that they might tell you, okay, you can change it. Let's say for whatever reason you weren't able to put in quality applications and you got rejected from all those three different courses. Here you can raise that, okay, due to these unforeseeable circumstances, I could not put in quality applications, and they might give you the chance to change your courses. um, but you cannot do that yourself on the online application system unless they agree to that on your interview, and then they will be able to change those. You will be able to change those courses. I've known someone who have done this, but I'm not sure how accurate this is in terms of them agreeing to like you changing your courses. Maybe that person had a very strong application and they were more curious about giving them that opportunity. But it's always good to put in quality application for your courses as well, so that you don't lag there. You should also keep those up to the standard so that you have the course of your choice. Of course, that's important as well. And also, do not wait for the outcome of the interview to apply for universities or receive an unconditional offer. Any offers received should be uploaded to the online application system as soon as possible. Um, you cannot think that, okay, let me have the scholarship first and then I can apply for the courses. And like some people might be like, why would I put in the effort to apply for courses if I am not getting the scholarship? But it is not a process, a cascading like dates that would come one after another. These are parallel dates that go together. If you don't get your courses application out of the way and you get a scholarship, you will not have enough time and you cannot push a university to give you uh, admission because you got a scholarship. They have their own standard processing times. Some universities will take months, sometimes some others might take weeks, and it also depends on the time of the year. So always it's a good idea to have those applications started, even if you can start them before your Chevening application. Good for you, because then you have something out of your way and you can focus on your Chevening application. But if not, then start as soon as possible. um, some of the frequently asked questions, I think we are just going over the limit of time that I was thinking about. We might not talk about that here, but you can always head to Chevening Scholarship, chevening.org, and then the frequently asked questions part. And there you can, of course, search by the topic. So whatever keywords you might have in that question, let's say you have questions about the interview, just type in interview, and then in the topic you can also like interviews, for example, you can select that audience can be, you can also select the audience as applicants, fellows, partners, like different things. So it depend on what kind of questions you might have. Um, it's a very actually I've done this the I've read through the frequently asked questions just to understand, and I was surprised how many questions I had and they were answered there for me. So before you like go somewhere and bombard someone with lots of questions, I would recommend going to the website, reading through all the different things, and then um, reading through the frequently asked questions, which is again, um, you can visit here. And then if you have any questions that you have been left unanswered, um, after going through all these steps, then you can ask someone. But if you haven't done your own research, there will be always questions in your mind, and some of questions might not even come to your mind. But if you read then you will be more aware of, okay, what is going on. Again, all of these slides, the resources, for the resources I used chevening.org, but by no means that these are official from chevening.org. I'm doing this just because I felt that this is my responsibility to um, have the outreach and help those who are applying, because I've been through the process and I needed help with different things. Again, if you have any questions, just drop them down in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel for future videos. As I mentioned, I will be uploading new videos about the application walkthrough, as well as the writing essays, and in the future talking about the interview. Again, I also have been through the Fulbright scholarship application, and I got the scholarship as well. So in the future, I will be talking about that as well once they open up the um, applications for different countries. So just subscribe to my channel, um, and you will not miss those videos. You don't want to miss those videos if you want to apply to these scholarships. Um, Again, the slides that I prepared here were taken from tuning.org, but it is not there. It's not an official presentation. This was my own personal experiences that I shared with you guys. If you have anything, any questions, just hit me up or visit my website, um, and I will be happy to answer them for you. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, morning, wherever you're in whatever parts of the world. And one last thing that I shouldn't forget, I hope I will be having enough time to do the Persian and Pashto uh, versions of this video. Yeah, that's wanted to mention that for you guys. Um, I did this for everyone, but for my Afghan fellows, I want to do Pashto and Farsi version of this slides for you guys. I'll upload those as well. And in the meantime, take care. Bye.